right. What up, everybody? It's your boy, The Infinite Dragon here, and welcome, I guess technically to a reaction video. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching an archive stream, be sure to check me out live. Link is always in the description down below, as well as a link to my Discord, which will let you know what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, all of that good stuff. Happy Black History Month. How's everyone doing today? So as my chat tends to know that I like doing at least something for Black History Month. Existing, it'd be like that. I like to do something for Black History Month. Last year, I did a video on black coded characters, which is characters that aren't black, but more or less represent black people. You will not be able to find that video anymore, unfortunately, because the person who co-commentates with me has asked to be I guess redacted would probably be the word for it. They don't want to be associated with anything content creation related with. So it is what it is. However, we press on. I still got things I got to say. So this Black History Month, I guess, we are, we're just looking at a whole bunch of stuff. Yesterday for Anime Club, we checked out Afro Samurai for the first time. And today we're going to be listening to a Malcolm X debate. So the deal is that I like to think that I'm well traveled. I'm 27 at this point of my life, and I've been to several countries. I've been to Canada. I've been to a island in the Caribbean called St. Martin. I've been to Iceland, although that was for about 2 hours for a layover, and I've lived in the UK for about 5 months. So I like to think that I have a decent lay of the land. And I think more importantly, especially with some of the people that we have in chat who are not from America, the American school system is either not telling the full truth or just straight up not useful. You know what I mean? So while I'm aware of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, I have not heard or studied any of their speeches or any of their practices. I understand that Malcolm X was more radical in his approach to black civil rights, and Martin Luther King was much more peaceful in the sense that he was going for similar to Gandhi and studied Gandhi and how he peacefully protested. But otherwise, and of course the I Have a Dream speech, which I'm sure everyone knows about, but I haven't even listened to it, right? And I'm at a point in my life where I've just don't forget Rosa Parks. I mean, of course, Rosa Parks, all black historical figures, right? You learn about them, but you don't learn about them. You know what I mean? And I'll prove my point. The video that we're watching today is a debate between Malcolm X and Bayard Rustin. If you don't know who Bayard Rustin is, don't feel bad. I didn't know who he was either prior to finding the video. Bayard Rustin is a supporter of Malcolm X. I'm sorry, not Malcolm X, of MLK. And he organized all of the areas in which MLK either did marches or did protests or gave speeches for. He is unique in the sense that Rustin was not just a black civil rights activist, but he was also a gay civil rights activist. He was homosexual. He was out in like the 40s, which is a wild time to be out at any point, regardless of the civil rights. In fact, he was actually asked to step back in certain black protests because of his homosexuality, and they didn't want him to quote unquote give the wrong idea of what these movements were about. So he was actually asked to step back, which is insane. Not something I would have learned in high school. In fact, I didn't, and I didn't learn about it until my 27 years of age, like this week. So we're going to listen to a debate between them. Just a sidebar, as we're watching this video and I'm giving my opinions and my thoughts and everything on it, I am expecting a call. So if everything just suddenly just stops working all of a sudden, that's what happened. For people who show up later, chat, please inform them that I am taking a call. So let's get busy, shall we? For VOD watchers, there is a link to the video in the description down below. It is by Real Black One. Real Black One. And there's a link if you want to in the description if you don't want to hear me, yapping over it. I should have subtitles for this, so all right, let's get busy.
Here in the WBAI studios are Bayard Rustin, Executive Secretary of the War Resisters League, and Malcolm X, Minister of Mohammed's Temple of Islam in New York. Both of you gentlemen are working in your own ways for the welfare of the American Negro. And the first thing I'd like to ask you is if you would describe the purposes of your individual organizations and tell us something about the philosophies inherent in them. Mr. X.
Yes, sir, Mr. Donald. And I'm happy to be here today to represent the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to your audience. And as you know, Mr. Muhammad is the spiritual head of the fastest growing group of Muslims in the Western Hemisphere. And he perhaps is probably the greatest drawing card among the so-called Negro masses, more so than any other so-called Negro leader today. And proof of which, a year ago in Washington, D.C., he appeared at the Uline Arena and drew 10,000. And in New York at the St. Nicholas Arena, last year he drew 10,000. And this year, I think he drew another between 10 and 15,000. In Chicago, he drew 15,000. And I cite these things just to show you that as a man, no matter what people, whether they agree with him or disagree with him, they have to admit that the masses of the so-called Negroes are interested in hearing what he has to say. Probably in the past 2 years, he has become the America's most talked about and most written about black man. And even at the present time, I'd say he's one of the most he's the most controversial topic, namely because he's having such miraculous success in getting his program over among the so-called Negro masses. And if you ask me what it is, I can best tell you what it is by what he is credited with doing. The Time magazine last year, in an article about Mr. Muhammad, pointed out that he has successfully eliminated from among his followers the use of alcohol, which is one of the things that has destroyed our people here in America as a race. He has successfully eliminated dope addiction, profanity, excessive profanity, which actually stems from disrespect of self. He has successfully eliminated stealing.
So I'm going to chime in here. As I said, I'm giving a reaction, so I'm going to talk about stuff. It is my understanding that most of the time, cursing is a filler word. When you use a swear word in the middle of speaking, it is because you are trying to bridge the gap between what you're trying to say and what you're thinking of saying. It's like saying or in the middle of a sentence. Cursing is just another one of those. So being able to, well, actually, I'm doing it right now. Being able to take a second and pause and think about what you're saying, as far as talking goes, shows that you're able to be more cognizant of what you're trying to say, that you're willing to, you're more careful about what you're thinking about saying. So getting rid of that in the middle of an entire people and a massive amount of people is such an amazing feat in and of itself. Just to present yourself as someone who's able to speak coherently and with purpose is a massive achievement in and of itself, let alone getting rid of alcohol use, getting rid of dope addictions, etc., etc., etc.
And crime among his followers. He has, Time magazine also pointed out that he has, Mr. Muhammad has been successful in eliminating adultery and fornication and prostitution and making the black man respect his woman, something that has been characteristically absent among our men. And Time magazine also pointed out that among the Muslims who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, juvenile delinquency has been eliminated. And in the U.S. News and World Report, about a couple months later in '59, they pointed out that Mr. Muhammad was successful in making the so-called Negro see the importance of an economic program that would, in fact, when you think of what Time magazine said, they were giving him credit for being probably one of the greatest moral reformers that has appeared among the so-called Negroes here in America yet. And when you tie in what the U.S. News and World Report...
Okay, again, gonna chime in here. Negroes is how they refer to black people back in this time period. Perhaps they'll talk about it in the debate, but the reason why Malcolm X refers to the black people as so-called Negroes is because, in his opinion, which is more likely true, Negroes is a word used specifically for the enslavement of black people. So he says so-called Negroes because he's using it as a means to an end, but he does not like the word. It would be like people just using the N-word to refer to black people. It is a word which at the time did refer to black people, but no one really likes using it, if that makes sense.
Report magazine said concerning his success at getting the so-called Negroes to set up stores and factories and farms to feed ourselves, grow food for ourselves, factories to manufacture things for ourselves, and places of business to create jobs for ourselves. The point behind this particular phase of Mr. Muhammad's program is to make the so-called Negro economically independent, to keep him from having to embarrass the white man by demanding that the white man give him a job, when he can actually, Mr. Muhammad feels that our people can get together and pool our resources and our talents and whatnot and make jobs for ourselves. And lastly, I'd like to say that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching is not what we have been accused of, nationalism. Nationalism, the difference between being a Muslim and a nationalist, nationalism is the political approach or a political solution to the problems that confront the so-called Negroes in America. The aim of the black nationalist is the same as the aim of the Muslim. The Muslim and the black nationalists have no differences in objective. We are pointing toward the same goal. But the difference is in method, method. The black nationalist, wherein he relies on a political solution to the problems that confront the so-called Negro, we as Muslims believe that the only solution to our problem is a religious approach. And this is why we stress the importance of a moral reformation. As a rule, the black nationalist will not talk to you about God or any religion or any kind of moral uplifting of the moral values, whereas the Muslim, he stresses first to raise the moral standard of the so-called Negro, and by doing this automatically it tends to give him more dignity and self-respect, and it elevates his thinking to the point where he begins to think in terms of doing something for himself rather than to sit around and beg somebody else to share with him what they have amassed for themselves. So I would like to stress that Mr. Muhammad is not a politician. He doesn't believe that politics is the solution to the so-called Negro's problem. He says that the primary ingredient involved in our solution, it will take God. God himself has to have a hand in it, especially because the problem of the so-called Negro is so unique. His problem is different. The problem of the so-called Negro in America is different, perhaps, than the problem of any black people anywhere on this earth since the beginning of time. And so our entire approach is a religious approach. We believe that every condition that the Negro is in today was preordained, predestined, and prophesied. And we believe that we're living in the fulfillment of that prophecy today. We believe that our being here in America is in terms of biblical prophecy. We believe that the slave master's oppression of us is in line with biblical prophecy. And we believe that all of the trouble that the slave master is having on this earth today, all over the world, is all in line with fulfillment of biblical prophecy. And we also believe that Mr. Muhammad's presence in America in the midst of the so-called Negroes and his reason for teaching what he's teaching exactly as he's teaching it is all in line with the fulfillment of biblical prophecy.
Okay, so from that, I think what I'm understanding is that he believes at this point, the Nation of Islam and the quote-unquote Honorable Elijah Muhammad is saying that the oppression of black people in America was predestined in the same sense that God's people uh, God's people in the Bible were oppressed, and they also needed to be let go by the Pharaoh and other such figures.
So the one thing that I would like to stress is our program is strictly a religious program. Our solution is a religious solution. It's not a political one.
But Mr. X, does this involve the creation of a black state in America?
Yes, well, I answer you like this. It involves the creation of a black state for the black man, if not in America, somewhere on this earth. If not somewhere abroad, then right here in America. But primarily it involves the acquisition of some land that the black man can call his own, here or somewhere else. If the powers that be don't want it here, then they should make it possible for it to be somewhere else. If they don't want it to be somewhere else, they should make it possible for it to be right here.
It does have some political characteristics then.
Any religion, if by politics you mean the freedom and the rights of the black man, any religion that doesn't take into consideration that particular ingredient that involves the freedom of the black man is the wrong religion. But
he kind of changed his answer a little bit there, but all religion is slightly political. And most governments are formed on the base of a religious belief and therefore a political belief. So whether that remains in current speaking is depending on the government, but I think more than often than not, all political approaches started with some kind of more religious morality at the beginning of it. So the short answer of what I believe in his response being is that because we are religious, it is therefore political, but the point of it is to be religious.
Politics as such is not the solution, but the divine solution would have to have that particular ingredient in it. You can call it politics if you want, but I wouldn't call bread salt. It has salt in it. Salt is one of the ingredients. Yeast is one of the ingredients. Flour is one of the ingredients. And the overall problem of the so-called Negro in America is not a political problem as such. It's an economic problem. It's a social problem. It's a mental problem. It's a moral problem. And it's a spiritual problem. So we need a solution that doesn't deal with politics alone. What good does it do a man to be politically free and at the same time be economically dependent upon the man who gave him the so-called political independence? Why, he's still a slave. So we feel that since all of these...
So that is another way to say that just because we are free now today, black people still are in working class jobs. They're still doing manual labor. So yes, we're politically free, but we don't have any economical freedom. And that's not just true for black people. That's true for all people of color.
Ingredients are involved.
Actually, I would even go as far as to say nowadays, that's a matter of not just people of color. This is an issue of middle class and low class. Middle class and low class aren't getting the type of economical freedom that they deserve because everything is controlled by the top 1%. At least that's what I think.
Only God himself can give a solution that will solve the whole thing. And this is the solution that we feel the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching among the so-called Negroes here in America.
Mr. Rustin, we hear from you.
Something either rich, indeed.
I'm very happy to be here and particularly anxious.
So, from what I know is that, as far as I'm aware, this is the closest that Malcolm X and MLK will get to actually having a debate with each other. The fact that we're having a debate with I cannot remember his name, Rustin. The fact that we're having a debate with him in general is amazing because they generally, as far as I'm aware, did not put him out in front. Mind you, I didn't know about this person's existence until literally this week, so some of my information may be off. But he works directly with Martin Luther King. So I think for better or for worse, he's going to represent the nonviolent side of this during the rest of this debate. So yeah, I'll let him explain his take. And we'll give some comments on it.
That Malcolm X and I should clarify some of these questions which he has brought up in my mind. I would like to state very simply what it is that I believe and feel. I believe that the great majority of the Negro people, the black people in this
Surprised this transcribed audio still survived. I'm surprised as well.
Are not seeking anything from anyone. They are seeking to become full-fledged citizens. Their ancestors have toiled in this country and contributed greatly to it. The United States belongs to no particular people because of race, color, or creed. People have come from many parts of the world to construct it. And it is my view that the great majority of Negroes take as their key word, and the great number of Negro leaders, the term integrate, which means that rightly or wrongly, they choose to become an integral part of the United States.
I'm surprised it was ever released with how anti-black America was at the time. I have no idea, man. It says in the top there that this debate happened in the 60s, and this video didn't come out until 2 years ago. So I don't know the state of how this talk happened or became to be. I don't know how strong it was, how strong the movement was back then because obviously everyone knows Malcolm X. I don't know. I didn't learn about Rustin until this week, so the fact that this exists at all is insane to me. But yeah, no. Considering the circumstances of this debate even happening, I'm actually surprised we have this information. But I mean, you can't contain, especially as media develops over time, you can't contain people's truths. You're going to see what people believe from whatever perspective. So
I believe that we should work politically to the degree that that is possible. But I also believe that, and through the courts, but I believe that at the moment we have reached that point where the justice and freedom for the Negro people will come about largely because they, with a sense of dignity and pride, organize themselves to demand to become an integral part of all the institutions. And thus, such things as the Montgomery protest, the student sit-in movement, and the effort which some of us are now making in regard to elections, where we do not honestly feel that either of the major political parties can solve the problem as they are now constructed. We are doing those things by direct action, which we feel will splinter the existing political parties, cause a political realignment in which the freedom and justice for all people, including Negroes, can be achieved.
So, I guess to summarize, that he's saying that we're willing to work with people in order to get where we need to be. However, it's whatever you guys are doing is not enough. So we need to assert ourselves and put ourselves on the line, and demand what it is that we need in order to thrive as a people. You guys have this much. You guys are setting the bar for what it means to live in this country. We don't have that. We want that. We understand that that's going to rock the boat. You guys aren't going to like that. Sucks to be you, I guess. We demand our rights the same way that the white man has their rights, if that makes sense.
Now, this is not a unique position, and certainly, while a controversial one, not so controversial as that which Malcolm X puts before us. And I should like, therefore, to ask him this question.
Okay, so he's saying, we want integration as in we want to live peacefully with all of you. We just want to be like the same as y'all. right? Malcolm X is saying, hey, we should just have our own state, our own country. If you guys don't want, if you guys don't want us here, if you guys aren't going to provide us for us to do our own thing. That's the least you can do. I think some of you guys have heard the term reparations. I think Malcolm X is demanding reparations. You should give us the money and resources that we can, so we can do our own thing, whether that be here or in a different part of the world. We should be allowed to do that. Well, Rustin is saying, we'll work with you guys, but this isn't what you're doing right now is not enough. So now they're gonna have a debate on the different philosophies here. Kind of reminds me of the Native American had their land still here in America. How so? You mean in the sense that the British has come to America and the Native Americans had their land still, or they have their protected lands? What do you mean? More or less what you were saying, giving them their own land, their own state, or something like that. That's while that's probably similar to it, it's a little bit more unfair to the Native Americans, because the Native Americans were here first, and then they got their land stolen from them, and then the white man, so to speak, has said, hey, you can keep this little part. Imagine having your stuff taken by the government, and then they say, here, you can keep this one thing, you can own this. It's still messed up. Yes, yeah.
It would seem to me that the logic of your position really is to say to Negroes or black people in this country, we ought to migrate and set up somewhere in Africa a state in which men are free to follow a particular religious ideal, because it seems to me ultimately this is where you have to come out. I don't see how this escapes as being the logic of your position. You say that perhaps a state will be set up here, but on the other hand, your attitude is if you're not wanted, then you don't want to be where you're not wanted. So why isn't the logic of your position to go to the heart of the matter and take the Garvey position and urge Negroes to return to Africa?
Well, Mr. Rustin, number one, when you speak of us striving here to become full-fledged citizens, or as they say, first-class citizens, number one, most of the Negro leaders, or so-called Negro leaders, they have gotten the Negro masses to think in terms of second-class citizenship, which there is no such thing. We who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad look upon a man as either a citizen or he's not a citizen. He's not a citizen by degrees. He's a citizen or he's not a citizen. And as long as the black man in America is not recognized as a first-class citizen, we don't feel that we are citizens at all. No other people in America are placed in a second-class citizenship category. People can come here from Hungary, which is a communist country, and be incorporated or integrated into the American way of life overnight. They don't have to come in as third class, second class, or some other kind of class citizen. The only man that's placed in this category is this so-called Negro who has sat around and begged the white man to accept him as an integral part of his particular political setup and whatnot. Now, we feel that if after 100 years since Lincoln issued the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, if the black man here is still not recognized as a first-class citizen, which means free, then we don't feel that what Lincoln did actually set the so-called Negro free in the first place. Not freedom in its full sense of the word. An example. If you have a unique problem in that if the black man in Nigeria, for instance, strives against his oppressor to gain his freedom, once he gains that freedom, the oppressor leaves. But the black man in Nigeria is already at home. He has his own country. If the black man in India is striving against his oppressor for freedom, once his oppressor, the colonizer, gives him that freedom, the colonizer leaves, the oppressor leaves, but the slave or the ex-slave is already at home. This is the...
Now, this is all well and good, but you are not answering my question.
I'm answering your question.
Right, go ahead.
If the black man in Kenya, the same way, if he rebels against the British, his British oppressor, and gains his freedom, then the oppressor leaves. Now, the black man in America's position is unique in that he begs for freedom or demands for freedom, but once he gets this so-called freedom, he's still 9,000 miles away from that which he can call home. So he has a problem that's different than the problems of the other dark people all over this earth who have been striving for freedom. And where over there, they can use the passive approach, which is sit down or sit in or rebel in that way. When you have in India, like Gandhi, where they had 300 or 400 million black people striving against a couple 100,000 white oppressors, then passiveness worked, because all they had to do is stop, sit down. It's like an elephant sitting on a mouse or something. But here they are the majority, and the oppressor is the minority. Here in America, you got the black man is the minority. And when you call yourself sitting down on the white man, all he has to do is let you sit. He can get someone else to run his factory or whatever else he wants to do. But to sit there and use this so-called passive approach, we don't think it will work, because we don't find any parallel. We don't find, for instance, anyone being encouraged to seek freedom in a passive way other than the so-called Negro here in America.
So, to slightly recap of what Malcolm X is saying here, the question Rustin has posed to him, which was, hey, why are you, if you saying that we should get up and just go back to Africa or instill a state, why even bother with the whole entire state here if we're not wanted here? Why are you just not advocating to go all the way just to Africa, just in general? To which Malcolm X has recapped the American black problem so far is that we're outnumbered. We are the minority here, so a passive approach to this is not going to work. That's basically what he's saying. My personal opinion on Malcolm X's statement is that he's basically talking about a mass deportation back to Africa. And the reason why I don't think that's going to work is the same reason that ICE doesn't work currently. The reason why ICE is insane and doesn't make any damn sense is because I think I'm unique in the sense that I'm the only one who's tried to live in a different country, at least as a part of chat. And if Pudgy, hi Rumi, wasn't there at the time, just getting up and going to the UK wouldn't have done anything. I had a unique situation in which I moved to a completely different country with the intent of staying there, and then I didn't have any rights and I didn't have any ability to do things. The problem that I came with is that if I wouldn't have had shelter if I wasn't living with Pudgy. I wouldn't have had the ability to get a job, because the way that works in the UK is that you need a work visa to afford housing. To get housing, in order to get a work visa, you need a job. In order to get a job, you need housing. You need to have a permanent residence. So that kind of feeds into itself into a loop of you don't have a work visa, so you can't get a house. But in order to get a job, you need a house. But in order to get a house, you need a work visa. You need a job. In order to get a job, you need a work visa. So it kind of loops into it of itself. Now, that's a unique problem specifically to the UK, but the problem still remains that I don't have anything to do once I get to that other country. Now, Malcolm X is now advocating for the idea that the American government sets up this, but I still don't think that works in this situation. Again, for the same reason that ICE doesn't make any sense, because if you take the people who are living here and are living their lives in America and you forcibly put them to a different country, they don't have anything to do. They may be out of America, but they don't have anything to do in this country, whether they were originally there or not. So I don't think this is a solution to the actual problem. This is kind of, if I were to give an analogy, this is kind of like just kind of sweeping the problem under the rug. Hey, we're just gonna go over here and figure this out on our own. But there's not much to figure out because you don't have anything to do. And even in a situation where the best case scenario, we do have something to do, we do have this full support of America, right? We do all just go back to Africa. We would then be taking away land and resources away from the people who are already there, right? So this is just another form of colonization. And then we have a different type of racism going along, or different type of discrimination going along versus the colonialized Black Americans and the original Africans, right? So this is just causing more issues. This is not, in my opinion, this is not a solution. Now, to be fair, the problem with the passive way in just saying, hey, give us our rights, is that that's probably not doing enough fast enough. You know what I mean? People are suffering now. People are struggling now. People are having issues right now, and saying, hey, please give me my rights, please treat me the way that you do, is a little bit too slow for the people suffering right now. You know what I mean? So when he was talking about the oppressors who's making them leave, I remember the small bit of history. Spaniards had took over an island and having Black slaves doing their farm work, and they fought back. Yeah. Slavery for Black people is everywhere across the globe, because it is easy to tell the difference between someone who's Black and someone who is not Black. You know what I mean? The reason why America and I believe the UK stopped using Irish slaves is because eventually you couldn't tell the difference between an Irish slave and a European. You could easily tell the difference between a Black man and a European. It's very easy to. So
many of the whites who pose as liberals and act as advisors for Negroes tell them that be passive, be peaceful, turn the other cheek. But these same whites who encourage the so-called Negro to use the passive approach have never advocated a passive approach to throw off the yoke of bondage to any white groups of people who are in bondage. When they speak of the whites in Eastern Europe who are under the yoke, the Russian yoke, they don't tell them to be passive in their resistance. They feed them ammunition. They feed them guns. They make heroes out of the freedom fighters from Hungary. They make them great heroes. But when it comes to a Black man, be he in Asia or Africa or in America, if he becomes militant in his resistance against oppression, then immediately he's classified as a fanatic. But if it's a white man or a white group or someone in a white country that's trying to throw off bondage, the propagandists label that one as a hero, and they label the dark people who are trying to resist this oppression, be it no matter what kind of resistance it is, they label them as fanatics, as racists, as extremists, or as rebels. So what it does.
That's just true. If you've been in any history class ever for American history, that's just true. That is literally just what happens.
It makes the Black man in America who would like to fight for his freedom or take a militant, uncompromising stand, it makes him reluctant or afraid to take that stand for fear that he'll place himself in this particular category. And I would like to say this, also in answer to your question, that it is not the so-called this kind of movement and that kind of movement in America that's causing the white man to give an inch, and that's all he's giving is an inch. It's the pressure that the white man is under today from the outside world. He's not telling you and me that we might be integrated into his particular educational system or economic system 10 years from now. He's not promising it this year, 10 years from now or 20 years from now or even 50 years from now, because he loves us. But he'll tell you every day. You listen to some of these political speeches. They're catering somewhat to you and me, only because they are in a position where they are forced to try and impress and gain the friendship or the sympathy of the African nations that are getting their independence. The white man today is posing.
So he's suggesting that the only reason that why Black Americans are getting any kind of give is from peaceful protesting or talking in case of Malcolm X, Malcolm X's more radical speeches is because they're trying to make money off of African countries, and makes it look better if Black people have rights there. That's what Malcolm X is stating right now.
As the leader of the so-called free world. And the only way he can be accepted as the leader of the so-called free world is to be accepted by the majority of the peoples on this earth, the majority of whom are non-white people. And they measure him by how he treats the non-white people here in America. And to impress them, he stands up and talks this old integration talk, which is hypocrisy. Not because he's going to integrate you and me, because we'll still be begging 100 years from now, but to impress our brothers in Africa and Asia. And I don't think that...
Unfortunately, he's correct. as evident as literally the state of the world right now. Unfortunately, he's fucking correct. It's not enough fast enough. Yeah, but the difference between what's going on back in the 60s and what's happening currently is that this, like I mentioned before, this is not just a matter or a problem between Black people and people of color in America. This is a matter of middle class and low class versus the top 1%. The top 1% wants to do everything they can to get your money, to get your hard work, and to make you the quote unquote slave or the lesser citizen here. The same way that the lesser citizen here back in the 60s is just Black people or any person of color. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this talk in the first place is because I listened to a Malcolm X. It was like a 30-minute like speech or debate or some kind, but basically what he was saying, he was saying a bunch of things that Black people are going through in the 60s that I was like, wait, that's literally what's happening right now. Like history is repeating itself. It's just on a different scale. It's all of America now. And the people who don't understand what's going on right now are still the people voting for these people in power and not understanding what's going on. You know what I mean? Here's some Basha lore. All right, Basha, let's see what you got. I have a step grandmother who is African American. She's a very nice lady I met during around my time growing up in Savannah, Georgia. All right, well, you have a step grandmother who's African American. For people who are watching the VOD of this, Batra is Mexican American. So, yeah, the thing being is that there's a lot of things paralleling right now. You know what I mean? I figure you should learn more of my family tree. Past my grandparents, I don't even know what my family tree is. You know what I mean? Like, I think that in and of itself is really weird. Like, past my grandparents, I don't know anything of my history past them. Like, I know on my mom's side, I am Choctaw Native American. I think it was my great grandmother, but I don't even know their name. And that's not enough to claim heritage to the Native Americans here, because you have to be, I think, like 1/4 in order to claim heritage in America. So I don't even know. The fact that that's even a statement, I like the idea of being able to just instate our own, like being able to like a for us by us type of political movement. But the problem for that is that if we go back to Africa, we are not connected with Africa the way that we should have been connected with Africa, because we came from Central Africa and West Africa, but I don't have any connection to them except for literally the stories of Anansi, the spider, which I've mentioned before. And if you guys have seen me play SMT, Anansi the spider is in SMT5 Vengeance and his father. And I thought that was such a cool thing to put into the game, because that's the part of African heritage I know. But all of my knowledge about Africa comes from Egypt. In Egyptology, in the Egypt mythology. I don't know anything about African heritage. I know about what African heritage has survived in America, but American heritage is not the same as African heritage, so being put back into Africa would not work. Africa is a continent, it's not even a country. So what country would we go to? You know what I mean? There's that one episode of Static Shock. Yes, and there's the one episode of Static Shock. Static Shock is just so good. Yeah, no, so like, I like the idea of being able to do stuff for us by us, but that there's no way that can happen without help of America, which is what he states. But I think that they need to be more involved in that state. Like this needs to be more of a everybody get together and make this a thing. You know what I mean? As far as modern politics go, this is more of a issue of the 99% needs to get together and understand that the 1% does not have your best interest in heart. Every move that they make is for their own self-interest and for them to make more money than they already have and to make you a slave, a AA battery, so they can power whatever form of technology that they have. You know what I mean? I like to get in touch with my Mexican heritage. I try to encourage you to do so, Bacha. Like every time we do one of these things, I say, hey, do you have any Mexican heritage you want to share with the class? Because I don't know anything about being Mexican. Like my best friend in middle school was Mexican, but as far as his food that his mother cooked, he was like a second generation. I think that's what it is when your parents come and then you're the offspring of them. You're a second generation. He was second generation Mexican, but aside from his parents making food, I don't know anything about Mexican heritage. The thing I want to do is try to actually speak Spanish, learn how to. Well, if anyone in your family knows how to, just speaking with them should be sufficient. But yeah, the best I got for the African part of my African heritage is stories carried over from West Africa, like Anansi the spider. But other than that, I don't really there's not even confirmation that I'm from my particular brand of African. It was from West Africa. It could have been Central Africa, and it could have been South African, before South Africa became what it is currently. So I don't even know.
He's going to be successful at it.
Now, am I to take it that what you are saying is that you are really opposed to integration because you don't think it's meaningful and cannot work? Therefore, I come back to my question. Now, you said a great deal about nonviolence, which we should get into, and you've implied a certain number of economic things. But I have to get first your basic position clear in my mind. Otherwise, I don't think the rest of the discussion can be meaningful. You have to answer for me clearly the question as to whether what you ultimately have to see as a logical position is leaving the United States. If for the next 200 years Negroes are not going to be citizens by your definition, why isn't it logical then for for your leader to say, let us find a piece of territory somewhere and go to it? Because either you are advocating the continuation of slavery, if that isn't logical, because you say you can't get it by the methods which I am advocating, which is the slow grinding process of integration.
Which is a good point. If Malcolm X is saying we can't get it by the slow grinding process of getting, if that's not enough, why are you not advocating to go straight to Africa and still stay there? It makes perfect sense as far as a question to go. So I'm actually quite interested to see what he says.
Now, I want to know where you stand on that, because I can't see other things clearly unless I see this.
I'll try and make it as clear as I can. If by integration, we believe that integration is hypocrisy. If you were going to use the word brotherhood, that's another thing. We don't believe in integration, but we do believe in brotherhood. Integration.
But do you believe brotherhood is possible here?
If any time, sir, you have to pass a law that will make the white man accept you into his society, that's not brotherhood, that's hypocrisy. If a man holds a gun on you to make you put your...
Okay, he's not actually answering the question, but he is, if that makes sense. He's going a roundabout way. So he's saying if a law needs to be passed for this to work, that is integration, and that's not enough. But if we are just being treated as equals, there's no laws that need to be passed, we just are, then that could work. He's not actively saying that, but that's what he's saying.
Arm around me and pretend that you love me, that's not brotherhood, that's hypocrisy.
Right.
And if America, if this country has to pass laws to make the white people accept us into their educational system, and has to pass laws to make the white people accept us into their into better housing in their neighborhoods, then what that is, that's the government is holding a gun on the white man and making him pretend that he wants you and me to sit beside him. That is hypocrisy. The government is forcing the white man in America to become a race of hypocrites. Now, if the white man, with no laws passed whatsoever, would accept the black man into his school, would accept the black man into his neighborhood, would accept the black man into his social system, economic system, and political system without laws having to be passed, then we would go for that. We would say that that's brotherhood, that's voluntarily,
Do you
and
think
it
that's
will work.
going to happen?
Why, your common sense tells you, sir, that it's not going to happen.
Then, if you cannot do this through the constitutional methods of going into courts, of having laws, which I call integration, and if you cannot do it by the spirit, which you call brotherhood, then what do you see as the future for black people here, and why should they stay?
Sir, the future for the black man in America, as we've been taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, since you can see, and any intelligent person can see.
So Malcolm X does not curse, but I think he uses, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as his filler word, so he can get time to think. Because he says that a lot, and I think that's what he's using as his filler word, so he can get time to think. But I mean, it's a good filler word.
That the white man is just not going to share his wealth with his ex-slave, or share his house with his ex-slave, or share his fields with his ex-slave, if the slave keeps pressing him. Sooner or later, there has to be a showdown. If the white man, the slave master, does not want the ex-slave in his house, then he has to let that slave go for himself and find a house for himself. Now, Mr. Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, our leader and teacher, teaches us this, that God has taught him that the only solution for the slave and the slave master is separation.
Ah, so then you do believe in separation.
We absolutely believe in separation.
Right. Now,
we believe that separation is divine.
Right. Now, if there is to be divine separation, are you people being logical? Are you saying then we ought to take over, let us say, an area of the United States which is predominantly Negro and send more and more in until we control it? Or are you being logical by saying, let's get outside of here?
I think both is logical.
Izzy has returned. He was taking a nap. One of the cats is on Dizzy's bed. He was taking a nap. They made an outrage, but they still kissed the cat. It's their bed now. It's true. I thought you used some of the tuna. I didn't see. I only saw the one cannon in there. We're talking about dinner. All right. Back to what's going on here. I know it's hot in here, so you open the door, but like I kind of need the door closed for the acoustics. I know it's hot in here. Huh? Okay. Make nachos with tuna? Wants to look outside.
No.
Are you going back out? Okay. All right, you might hear Dizzy moving in around in the background.
Actions have consequences.
It's logical when you find that you can't get along with a man
Oh,
in peace to set up house somewhere else. Now,
oh, the whole entire thing. There you go. There's the subtitles.
when we say that, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that God has declared that the black man in America must have some
Are you talking to me? Oh, I think we have Wheeze, Batra, and Pudgy in chat right now. I feel like Landy's probably in lurking somewhere, so Landy might be here.
land of his own, that means he must have some land of his own. The land doesn't have to be
Wheeze says hello.
in Asia. The land doesn't have to be in Africa. The land doesn't have to be in Canada. The land can be anywhere. And if right here in America, since, as you say, we've been such good workers and faithful citizens, I'd rather say faithful servants,
Right.
we haven't received any payment for our labor. It would only be just if the master, if his intention is good, since he knows he's not going to bring about this integration, the best thing for him to do is let us have some of these states.
This is reparations, which I've heard before. Hey, there's a bunch of stuff that you guys did. You should pay to repair that state by giving us money. Well, I mean, it's for black people.
And we can go into these states, instead of begging him to live next door to him, we can go into these states and set up
Personally, I don't believe reparations would be enough. As I said, you have to go into, like, as Malcolm X said, you have to go into this situation with love and with brotherhood. I do agree with the sentiment that laws are not enough, but like, it's like, so you guys know about that that thing that Blizzard has, in which they have a diversity wheel or a diversity chart that businesses and businessmen will not understand the way that diversity should work in companies. And by doing so, they have a chart of diversity. So that way they can get, instead of just making characters, they have a way to, like, quote unquote, make the character more diverse, which is why Soldier 76 in Overwatch is gay. He wasn't before, but he is now because it's diverse now. A lesbian white woman is more diverse than a black man, according to Blizzard. Yes, like, putting it on a point system is how people understand, how people who don't understand. You have to, like, they're for whatever reason, they have to logic it out by putting it as a point system. And that's what the laws in this case would be. So while that is not technically a true solution, it is a solution. It's not a good one, but you do what you got to do, right?
farms and feed our own people, set up factories and manufacture clothing and other utilities for our own people, set up businesses where we can make jobs for our own people. And this will keep us from having to beg him for that which he has set up for his people.
Right. In other words, then, Daily News is right in describing your movement as being an apartheid movement. They compared you to South Africa, where...
Okay. Hold on. For the sanctity of chat, let's get the definition of apartheid. I spelled that wrong. The apartheid is generally referred to as with the apartheid in South Africa. But apartheid, a policy or system of segregation or discrimination on grounds of race, which is technically what Malcolm X is advocating for. So yes, I would agree with that statement that Rustin has thrown into the docket.
They say the whites should be in one place, the Negroes in another. It seems to me that what you're saying is pretty much the same thing.
No, sir. We don't feel that the Daily News is qualified to classify us as anything.
That doesn't mean it's not true. You know, like, just because you don't agree that they're the ones that said it doesn't make that statement not true.
Or compare us with any South African philosophy, because number one, the people in South Africa are some people who left Europe and went into Africa, a continent that is not theirs, and took it over from the black people to whom it belonged, and they are now there advocating.
All right, so he's now going to say that the situations are different. The situations are different by the definition of, by which I just Googled. Let's see if I can get a primary source on, like, maybe I can get like a Webster's dictionary. Merriam-Webster. Racial segregation, apartheid. Racial segregation, specifically a form or policy of segregation of political, social, and economic discrimination against non-white majority of the Republic of South Africa. So he's, I guess by this, the Merriam-Webster definition, Malcolm X would be right. That is not the same thing. It would be a similar thing, but not the same thing. You would have to use a different word for it. So I guess it depends on what definition you're using. In this case, I guess both things are true. It is like apartheid, but it is not apartheid. It is still segregation, though.
White supremacy, which is a false doctrine. They're advocating black inferiority, which is another false doctrine, and they're basing their entire governmental system on the continued existence of a country, they're staying on a continent that they don't belong in, and also ruling over some people that they have no authority over. We who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are advocating peaceful existence here in this country, which we feel is just as much ours as the white man. It's not his, because he took it from the Indians, and he can't object to us because he brought us here. We didn't come here on our own. We didn't come here voluntarily.
Hello, Fizzy. I learned a lot about Malcolm X in university. He was really intelligent and used his word, and his words deserve to be heard. So Fizzy, I know you just popped in. We're also listening to a debate of Bayard Rustin. If you don't know who Bayard Rustin is, do not feel bad. I didn't know who he was until this week. But basically, the short version of it is he is a black activist that helped organize Malcolm X, his movements, his marches, and everything as such. And he did it all while being openly gay.
Voluntarily. He put us in chains and brought us
So we're listening to a debate between these two.
here, and then worked us for nothing for 310 years
Wow.
without paying us one day's labor. Now, I would like to point this out, Mr. Rustin. If you have 100 people who work for you for nothing for a week, you make a profit. If you have 1 million people who work for you for nothing for a year, you become wealthy. Well, then when you have millions of black people whom you can work for nothing for 310 years, you can easily see why America became the wealthiest and the most powerful country on earth faster than any country in history. But here you have 20 million black people today whose parents were worked for 310 years for nothing. What do they have coming for them? Not only did their parents work 310 years for nothing like an animal, but their parents also were the most faithful soldiers that the master had. What payment have they gotten? And today,
I think he technically just changed the question, because he was answering originally. Forget some? You forget some? He was answering originally, is this not segregation? To which while he's saying the truth, black people have been worked for decades, for hundreds of years, and not gotten anything for it. He's not answering the question of, do you not believe in separation, or segregation? Is this not technically an apartheid movement? Now, he's saying that this is not the same thing as quite an apartheid, so you would need a different definition, but this is still technically a form of segregation.
they're not
To which personally I don't agree with, but I understand the logic.
asking for much. They're not asking for what someone else would ask. Instead of asking for something that's real, they're asking their master to let them occupy one of the rooms in his house, or one of the rooms with him in his house. Now, this is still not asking for something. If America gave the black man here half of this country, they wouldn't be giving us anything. They worked our mothers and fathers for 310 years with no pay. The Senate, the Congress and the U.S. Supreme Court found it necessary to appropriate funds to repay billions of dollars to the Indians for land that was taken from the Indians 300 or 400 years ago. And if this generation of whites will recognize a debt incurred by the former generations of whites to the former generations of Indians, then this same generation of whites also must recognize debts incurred by the former generations of white to your and my forefathers. And if their own courts decree that they should pay the Indian today for what was done to the former generations of Indians, don't you think that God is more just than the court system of America? And if the court system of America says that the Indians must be paid, what do you think God would say that America must do in payment to 20 million black people who worked here for nothing for 310 years?
All right, I take it then that what you're really saying is that you believe that a certain section of the United States should actually be given over, and because Negroes have worked for it and deserve it, and that should be their territory. That this is your solution to the problem.
Only solution is separation.
Separation.
Not integration.
Now that we've got that clear, it seems to me we can go back and build on that.
So we did eventually get there. He has stated that he's for separation. By logical, technical, legal definition, it is segregation. Actually, can I actually get a legal definition of segregation? Let me see if I can get that. Legal dictionary. Yes. I'm looking for the word segregation. Not available in the legal definition. At least not from law.com. Let's try Merriam-Webster's Law Dictionary. Closest I get to it is the act of or process of segregating. I hate definitions like that. The act or process of segregating. The separation or isolation of race, class, or ethnic group by enforced or voluntary residence in a restricted area by barriers to social intercourse, by separate educational facilities, or by discriminatory means. I guess technically, by that definition, it would not technically be segregation because it's not discriminatory. However, did you really ask me if I knew about the Black Panthers? Just how white do you think I am? Listen, all right, Filler, you live in bumfuck nowhere Europe in a small, like, it is actually classed as a village. Of course I asked you about if you knew about the Black Panthers. All right. Black Panthers is an American movement that also got that also dissipated in the 80s. So yes, of course I asked you if you knew about the Black Panthers. Now, the reason why I'm focusing so much on the words or like the logic behind Malcolm X's statement is because I want to get a clear sense of if this logic that he's stating is a form of prejudice or not. And it feels like he's trying his best to not be prejudiced, but it is some form of it, if that makes sense. While he's doing a lot of really good things for Black civil rights and whatnot, this is still a form of prejudice. That said, it's not completely undeserved. Not completely undeserved. Hey, have you heard about this obscure civil rights leader? His name is Martin Luther King Jr. If you're gonna talk shit, Filler, you should spell his name correctly, because you did not. I think our history books are more to blame than anyone individually for not knowing the history. So the thing, Fizzy, at least the thing that I've come to understand, how's it spelled? Luther is spelled Luther, not OR. Is that the American and we have Filler and Pudgy here in chat who are both European. Pudgy being Mauritian European. That the American textbook, the American classes are filled with a bunch of half truths or just straight up useless information. For example, the best example that we have during this entire thing is the existence of Bayard Rustin in general. Because how did we not know that Bayard Rustin's existence happened just as prevalent as anyone else, but was pushed into the background? History is written by the victor, as they say. Yes, Malcolm X does have several points in which he says they take a couple of black people and put them up on a pedestal and say, hey, look how great we're doing. Hey, look, you see that black guy right there? That's your guy. Jackie Robinson is the first black guy in baseball. Isn't that great? Look, that's your guy. You did that. Congratulations. Clap. And he's absolutely correct on that. History likes doing stuff like that. So he's absolutely correct. My point in doing this is that I think that the solution that Malcolm X is advocating for is not a solution. That is my opinion on what he's saying. He's absolutely correct in everything, but the follow through is my opinion on this. Now, I do also agree with him that like the things that the peaceful protesting is doing is probably not enough fast enough, but what else? I mean, there's tons else that we can do, but like in order to actually sow love into the country, into the countrymen of this place, that only gets done with understanding and empathy. And if the laws are the way that you have to force empathy into the system, then I think that's the way that we have to go. It sucks, but as I mentioned before, that Blizzard as a company has a diversity meter, a diversity chart to make their characters more diverse, to be more appealing to more players. Now, should that chart exist in the first place? Absolutely not. But it's a logical way, it's a logical standard for them to make, so that way they understand that they are they're reaching the goals. It's like Filler actually can probably talk about this. The FDA has a bunch of stuff in there, has a bunch of laws that we have, because if those laws were not there, the government would get away with selling us chalk in expired milk. They would put chalk in expired milk and sell that to you, because that way the chalk levels out the chunkiness of the expired milk and make a profit on it, and you would be buying expired milk that you cannot drink. So I think while it sucks that laws are the way to go here, you have to teach empathy, you have to teach understanding, and the laws are the way to do that. Yeah, food used to be gross before regulations. It's still gross. Like the idea that Red 40 is still in all of it, which is a food dye, is still in all of our foods, is still legal in America, but it's not legal literally anywhere else. In fact, Pudgy, I brought some some of those Hawaiian punch packets from America to the UK, and Pudgy drank them because I brought them as a snack, and it had Red 40 in it, and they immediately thought they were going to get cancer and die, which isn't how that works. But like the fact that that's a thing that you should be concerned about is concerning. I think peaceful protests has worked in some cases. It does work. Peaceful protests do in fact work. The problem is that the problem is that people are out here dying, getting protested against, and having it being gunned down literally in the streets and having their rights violated. Peaceful protests are not fast enough. That's the issue here. So Malcolm X is advocating for a more radical and more direct solution, which I personally don't think it was direct. The red dye was blood red. It's true. But I also empathize that you can only get kicked to the ground over and over and over before you have to take more radical measures. That hurt has to go somewhere. It's true. when I was in America in 2022, I was surprised by how fucking radioactive glow your Fanta has. Actually, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Okay. American versus Indian Fanta. Yeah, there it is. So on the left here, if you see on the right side, on the left here, that's an American Fanta, and on the right, that is a European Fanta. The difference is not much actually in terms of taste. It more or less tastes the same. The difference is that Fanta, the European Fanta, does not use actual sugar; it uses sweeteners, so it does taste slightly different. But the Fanta on the left has food dye in it that makes it look that way. That is a carcinogen. So food regulations, these companies, these higher ups, these top 1%, which is what my original point was, is that the top 1% is trying to screw you over. The top 1% would kill you for a penny if it made them a profit. If it made them a profit, and that's what's going on here. Both these situations are just saying, hey, these things are bad. We notice that these things are bad. We need to fix this. The top 1% wants to inject you with orange, it's true. Peaceful protest in general isn't as effective, though. When women were protesting for the right to vote in England, we initially tried peaceful protests, but shit didn't get real till they started lighting shit on fire. I was actually concerned that I'm assuming it's supposed to be Fanta, not fantasy. Yeah, Fanta would give you diabetes, especially since Disney had free refills. Just don't drink the refill. Easy. No, but the fact that there is a bunch of corn syrup in sugar in American drinks, I can over an extended period of time, of course, that would be a concern. So Philly is saying that while peaceful protests do work, it is in fact slower than just actually fighting for a right. Don't drink a refill. What are you, a communist? Drink some water. Drink some water, you bum. Actually, I'm sure. I'm not gonna look for it now, but I think there is actual like physical studies saying that peaceful protests versus more radical protests and the effects of them. Like there is a study on it. Actually, maybe I will look for it now. Radical protests versus peaceful protests effective. Excuse me. Well, the first thing is a BBC. I don't know. The British people can tell me how trustworthy it is, but it says effectively. Within the 2 seconds I've taken to Google it, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Overall, non-violent campaigns were twice as likely to succeed as violent campaigns. The British people in chat can tell me how effective BBC is in terms of talking. American water, or rather, BBC is trash. All right, there you go. Like I said, I took 2 seconds to Google that. So take that with a grain of salt. I just don't think any non-peaceful protest would work. That's just my opinion. When we have racist-ass government and culture that justifies killing unarmed black men, unarmed people. It's not even black men anymore. It's just people. How are they supposed to fight against drones and tanks? It's true. It's true. BBC is generally a bit shit, but fairly accurate as long as you're not looking for an opinion or a fact that the government doesn't like. So as long as so it's clearly biased is what you're saying. What do you mean unarmed? That phone was clearly missile launcher. I think the weird thing is that we are legally allowed to own guns, but when you have a gun, and it is legally obtained, they will still gun you down. It's biased to status quo. Gotcha. It's all double standards. It's incredibly double standards. So while this debate is debating on the correct way to handle a situation like that, what do you do, right? Because no matter what, the injustice is still going to happen, whether you fight. What? Congratulations. Dizzy has come out of their bath. Whether you fight radically, or is he still in here? I'm getting distracted by the cat. Whether you fight radically or peacefully, I think the main point is that you are fighting in some way, shape, or form, and that it is not worthless that you are doing so. It does have merit no matter which way you do that. Whether how you do it is based on preference, as long as you're not like committing like war crimes, I guess.
For me to raise some other questions.
What? No one said that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
You said.
I said the word war crimes. Stop that.
With you. Now, how?
The cat does not want to commit war crimes. He just wants food. This cat is the cat that's known for digging through the trash. Punch a fascist in the face. Yes, Captain America did it. That means you can. I am not a fan of racism, Malcolm X. It's true. The cat's clearly racist. It's really funny that you said that because he's a black cat.
How do you see the Negro now? And I'm all in favor, you see, of doing away with dope and alcohol and profanity and the like. This is all to the good. But whether you like it or not, this is no answer to the ultimate problem which you face. Now, given the fact that Moses kept the children of
the cat's knocking stuff over. The cat doesn't see color or sees violence, as evident as for him knocking stuff over.
What the hell is this?
Whoa, he just said the N-word. What the fuck? Can he say that? Negro? That's not even the N-word. This image is black and white, so I can't tell. Ah ha 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 ha. You're so funny.
Israel in the desert for 40 years in order to do away with their slave mentality and to build up a new leadership. He also had to know precisely where he was going to take them. He had to have a...
It's an word. It's an N-word. White people can't say that one either. You know what, Filler? You could say the N-word if you want to. I will say it with you. Wait, time out.
You have...
Hold on. I got it. Here we go.
African-American rappers saying N-word this and N-word that, but a Caucasian can't.
So say it.
Say what?
Say the word you want to say.
I'm not saying that I want to say it. I'm just saying that I can't.
Sure you can. Say it. Say it right now. I will say it with you.
Okay, this is hypocritical. You know we can't.
Sure you can. This is America. Both of you. Say
it. I will say it with you.
A piece of land. Now you want a piece of land here. Isn't there some inconsistency with your economic
I mean, they can say the word. I just don't think they should. I mean, yeah, probably not, right? Probably don't say that. Imagine the power move, he just said it. It wouldn't be a power move. He would get canceled immediately.
Policy then in this regard? Because it seems to me what you are saying is Negroes should own their own stores. Negroes should become independent.
Yes.
Economically.
Yes.
Now, is this possible where you have Negroes spread over the country the way they are? You want them to buy land in Philadelphia, New York, and Texas, and what good is this? What are they going to do? Then give it up and move somewhere else? And what is the psychological implications of this?
Well, first, sir, when you mentioned Moses, you mentioned the best example that you probably could have. You pointed out the people that Moses was leading were probably the closest parallel to the problem confronting the so-called Negro in America than any in the Bible. Moses' people were strangers in a land that wasn't theirs. The black man in America is a stranger in a land that's not his. Moses' people had a slave mentality. And when they were found, they were worshiping gods other than their own. They were worshiping in a religion other than their own. The Negro in America is the same way. He worships the white man's God, and he's following in the white man's religion. The Negro in America is in the same fix, socially, mentally, politically, economically, and spiritually, as the people whom Moses grew up amongst, in so-called in Egypt 4,000 years ago. Now then, if you recall, Moses didn't advocate integration. Moses advocated separation. At nowhere in that Bible can you show me where Moses went to his people and said, believe in the same God that your slave master believes in, or seek to integrate yourself with Pharaoh. Moses' one doctrine was separation. He told Pharaoh, God told me to tell you, let my people go. By go, that meant separate. That did not mean to seek integration in the house of bondage. It did not mean to seek the acceptance of the slave master. It did not mean to seek the friendship even of the slave master. It meant that just what Moses said. Let my people.
Okay, so just want to point out this banger that Filler actually said. Moses loved separation so much he separated the sea. Banger, banger comment. 12 out of 10. Love that.
People go, and then he told his people, if you follow me, I will lead you to a land flowing with milk and honey. Moses never pointed out to anyone where that land was. God had instructed Moses up to that point, but Moses never told the people where he was taking them or what they would have to go through in order to get there. He said, follow me, and I'll lead you to a land flowing with milk and honey. And if you go back in that Bible, you'll find out some of them believed in him, but most of them were afraid of their slave master. They didn't believe that they could get along without Pharaoh. They didn't believe anybody could give them a job if Pharaoh didn't. They didn't believe anybody could put clothes on their back if Pharaoh. That's a slave mentality. They didn't believe that they could have an economic system free of pharaohs. That's a slave mentality. And today the same problem confronts the so-called Negro here in America, and the same problem confronts the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The same opposition that was put in the path of Moses is put in the path of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Malcolm X has a point here. Yeah, no, he just has a point here. He's got a point there. It's kind of hard to refute that one.
Today, if you notice, Pharaoh himself never opposed Moses. He always got magicians to oppose Moses. Today you find your modern slave master. You don't find him opposing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he gets so-called Negro politicians and so-called Negro preachers to work a lot of magic.
Man, I don't even understand how black Republicans can exist. Like, the existence of you makes no sense. How did you get here? What happened to you? Like, you don't make sense. Why are you pretending to be white? I know how. Please enlighten me, because it doesn't make sense. What's self-hating because they've been brainwashed? I mean, yes. Money and growing up coconut, yeah. Coconut, for anyone, is the European version of Oreo. A desire to be on the winning team, to be one of the good ones. Oh, it's so gross. It's sycophantic and I hate it. Bleh. It's sycophantic. It's gross.
in the eyes of the so-called Negro and make the so-called Negro think that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a crazy man, just like the magicians tried to make the Hebrews think that Moses was a crazy man. They get magicians to do this work. And the magician is the one who goes to the people and tries to make them think, well, this man Muhammad is crazy. He's going to get you all out here someplace and get all of you killed. But
I need you to explain coconut Oreo. Black on the outside, white on the inside. Yeah? We good? All right.
if you'll recall, and that's why I say I'm so glad that you mentioned that Moses parallel. We feel that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the modern Moses. Sometimes they refer to Powell as a modern Moses. I've heard them refer to Reverend Martin Luther King as a modern Moses. But no one can be a modern Moses until they first find out what did the ancient Moses do, and he advocated separation, not integration. He advocated complete separation, not integration, and he didn't advocate passive resistance.
Now, I would argue against that. Just because it happened in the past does not mean you have to do it again. It does not even mean that that was the correct option back then. Now, it probably was the correct option back then, but that doesn't mean it was. There are different avenues, different outfits, different ways to fight the power. You know what I mean?
He advocated an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. What kind of teaching is it when you tell a slave to pray for those who despitefully use you, and it's the slave master who's despitefully using the slave? Love your enemy, and it's the slave master who's an enemy of the slave. As long as you teach a man that kind of philosophy.
We've been doing it since forever ago. Just because you've been doing it for so long doesn't mean it was the right way to do it. It's true. There is a line in that game Disco Elysium in which it says tradition is just another way of saying fascism. Yeah. I mean, think about it. We've been doing this for so long, and we'll be doing it because that's the way we do things. Like, is that not just like what fascism is? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? That didn't pick up on the mic, but there's, I think, a child crying outside.
What the hell is this?
Oh, there's a child having a temper tantrum. Well, thankfully, it didn't pick up on the mic. Tradition is peer pressure from dead people is wild.
And he eats it up, he'll remain a slave.
Yeah, but you see, I am a great advocate of non.
Dang it.
The kid having a temper tantrum.
Yeah, it's probably because he can't get the ice cream, yeah? Yeah, it's probably, yeah. So there's an ice cream truck going past. It's probably the kid's probably having a temper tantrum because of the ice cream truck. That's the child we sent you. To stop, I'm being too woke. The child has come to cancel me. To come to shut me down.
Violence. Now, if you
The stream has gotten really ADHD all of a sudden.
would tell me where it is you're going to lead people, you see, where this land is, I might perhaps say, well, the important thing for me is not to talk about integration or to talk about getting involved in the economic and social and political life in America, because our...
It's like, bitch, you can do that with mods. What the fuck are you on? Since you contacted the motherfucker who made the mod, just like, you like, they probably fucking did.
Dizzy was talking to me, sorry.
objectives to get over there. But I don't know where you're going to go, and I don't think you do.
Yes, we do. We can take some land right here, sir.
How?
Right here. It belongs to us.
Yeah, but if you argue that these people are not going to permit you to integrate...
We're not going to integrate.
And if they're not going to be loving enough to accept you, do you think the economic fact is that they're going to give you 10, 12 states that are going to be turned over to Negroes? What states?
Mr. Rustin.
What states?
The predicament that a man is in
Yeah.
is what makes the man reach certain decisions, sometimes against his own will. Maybe you don't realize the predicament that America is in today in this world. America probably is in a more precarious position or predicament than any country has been in since time began.
I agree with that. You don't have to fight that.
Now, what is causing this predicament? It's the race problem.
Yes, I agree
Now,
with that.
who is the primary person involved in this race problem? The so-called Negro.
Right.
America's #1 problem is the so-called Negro. What must we do? This is what Uncle Sam is saying.
Realistically, I think they can give you Ohio. You must not understand what's going on in Ohio. Ohio is not a good state. I think most of the Midwest is not great, honestly. Like, believe me, I'm from Illinois. It's not. Yeah, like nobody cares about Ohio. It's mostly fields anyway. Like we want like if hypothetically Malcolm X gets what he's saying we should get, right? We just get our own literal state. Why would we choose Ohio? Huh? Choose an island. I was born in Ohio. I don't want to go there. And Weeze is white. I don't know shit about any state except like New York or California. The ones in movies. Yeah, and that would make sense. Batra is Latino and has been homeless in Ohio. Doesn't want that again. Why would we choose Ohio? Like,
Don't choose Ohio. Don't choose Florida. Don't choose California.
definitely not Florida. Especially not Florida.
What must I do about this Negro problem? And whenever she's attacked, whenever America is attacked on the race problem in America, she's completely without anything to say. She can say nothing.
Oh, she can say a lot.
What can she say?
I tell you exactly what
How
she
can she
say.
justify the race
I tell you
problem
just
that
what she
exists
can do.
here?
She doesn't justify it.
What does she do, sir?
She says, and don't misunderstand me, I have spent 25 years of my life, I've been in jail 22 times on the racial question. I've been on the chain gang. But I do not say that her answer is a good one, but it is an answer to meet the situation. She says, up until 1954, we did not have integration of schools. And now we have so many students integrated. Just a minute, let me finish. This is what she says. And she says, Negroes were kept out of trade unions, but now they are being integrated into them. Phil Randolph has set up a new movement.
So I think I agree with Rustin here. He's saying it's not a good solution. It's not the best way to do things, but nobody knows what the best way to do things is. And I don't think, I disagree with the idea that Malcolm X is advocating for, which is just giving the entire state, because I don't think that if you try to move out of America, I think that just doesn't work. As I mentioned before, ICE is trying to deport people out of the country, and that even if they were successful in doing that, which they aren't, if they were successful in doing that, they would actively just be killing people because they're putting them in places where they don't belong. They moved out of that place for a reason. I know what the best way to do things is. No, you don't, but tell us anyway. Every now and then my family would go down to Ohio to see my grandparents on my dad's side, but ever since my grandpa died, I haven't been there. And that was a couple years ago. I always hated it. And the cherry on top, well, my grandpa wasn't the nicest person. Oh, listen, I have no shade to the peoples of Ohio, but Ohio is not a good state. We do not want Ohio. In fact, I don't think we want most of the Midwest.
A pressure of the Negro masses on the trade union movement, and things are beginning to give there. America can not justify the race question, but vis-a-vis Africa, Russia, and the others, she's in a very good position to point to a considerable amount of progress, which incidentally I don't happen to think is enough. But it is enough to keep the great majority of Negroes in the
Just don't start the racial oppression in the first place. Okay, but it started now. So what now? What do we do? It's happening. So what now? What do we do? Oppression. The racial oppression is happening. So what do we do now, Filler? You know everything, right? For people who don't know, Filler is trolling, but like, I'm just saying. Just stop? Yes, tell what, like 40 million white people to just stop oppressing black people and other people of color. Just tell the top 1% to just stop oppressing the middle class and low class. That the funny part is that while they're trolling, that is actually the correct answer. You have to make those things illegal. And it is a step-by-step process, and it's really, really slow, and it sucks. But that, I think that is the way to do it. Why didn't you just ask the government politely? Damn, why didn't I think of that? I low-key forgot we were doing that. You can't be racist, that's illegal. It is illegal, but it still happens.
Logical position where I think you would find it extremely difficult to them to talk about going somewhere else. Now, you talk about Mohammed being able to get 10,000
I agree.
people.
Now, taking everybody and just moving to a different place is not only extremely difficult, it would take a lot of money that nobody wants to pay. It's not realistic at all. It is a nice dream. It is a nice Disneyland adventure, but it's not realistic at all. Which is why I should be defunded. Defund ICE. Use my tax money on healthcare. Nobody wants ICE. We want healthcare. Food should absolutely be less expensive. Yeah, I don't even like ice in my drinks anyway. That's because you're autistic. All we need to do is wait until the boomers die and then the world will start healing. That's not actually true because unfortunately, racism is taught. So all the children of the boomers are also going to be racist. You stop putting ice in my fucking Pepsi. It waters it down. It's true. I actually don't get ice in my drinks when I get it at restaurants because for that exact reason, it waters it down. I want more drink, not more ice. They're also trying to like shortchange you, right? Because they're trying to save money on costs, especially if they're a small business or like one of those one-off restaurants that don't exist anywhere else. Like it's not a chain, rather.
I'm here to tell you that I helped Martin King organize a prayer pilgrimage to Washington in which we got 35,000 people, a youth march in which we got 20,000 people. I simply don't believe that until you have some kind of area where people could go to,
Mr.
that
Preston,
the United States is going to take this seriously.
Do you realize if I was a Christian in a Christian country, I wouldn't brag about out of 170 million people getting in which there are 20 million black people, I wouldn't think it was any accomplishment to get 17,000 or 30,000 to Washington D.C. for a prayer pilgrimage when you got the Washington D.C. itself has got umpteen everybody down there is a Christian now. When the reason I said 10,000, sir.
So, I think Malcolm X is trying to make this a point of religion, which I don't think Rustin is trying to point out. It is a prayer pilgrimage, yes. But the point of it is not religion. The point of it is political, which Malcolm X is advocating for religion. He stands on a religious standpoint, not a political one. Politics happen to be involved in it because religion is politics. But so he's refuting this from a religious standpoint. But I don't think Rustin is coming from a religious standpoint. He's coming from a political standpoint that happens to be religious.
When you get like Billy Graham, if he draws 15,000 Christians out to a Christian rally in a Christian country, and then a man comes along who's a Muslim, which is a religion in direct opposition to Christianity,
that is
and
not true,
he draws
but
out a like number, the accomplishments cannot hardly be compared.
Yeah,
and
but now,
see, Islam does not run in opposition to Christianity. It runs parallel to Christianity. The only difference in belief, I believe, is that they believe that the Prophet Muhammad, not to be confused with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is more important on a Abrahamic sense, right? Actually, let me double check that. This is going to be a Google AI answer, but for the sake of argument. Islam emphasizes strict oneness of God, Allah, without a Trinity, viewing Jesus as a prophet, while Christianity centers on the Trinity. Yeah, so it's literally just the difference between the way that they praise God. Islam praise God directly, while Christianity praises Jesus and the Holy Spirit as well as God. It does not run in opposition.
May I stop you here for a moment?
Google, let us disable Google AI. It's annoying. It's true.
Because I think we've got to clarify something. When you say the followers of Muhammad are Mohammedans, Muslims,
not Mohammedan.
Well, Muslims. What you are talking about in reality is not a religious following in the terms of what the Muslim would be in India or Pakistan or a Christian in Europe. Because I maintain that the very term Muslim, while in Muhammad's mind it may be a religious concept, it is a psychological and political concept in the minds of
that is exactly what I just said.
Who follow it. Most of them do not read the Quran, they read the Bible. Most of them are essentially and culturally Christians. Why, therefore, do they call themselves Muslim? It is because it is a reaction to Christianity, where in fact they to a large extent still practice it, but don't want to use the term because they don't want to use the same religious terminology that their masters use.
Mr. Rustin, I'm surprised at you.
Well, this is a fact. I'm not talking about your leadership.
No,
I'm
sir.
talking about the mass of your followers.
I'm surprised at you, I mean, sir, in this instance. If you were to go to China and find Muslims, or go to India and find Muslims, or go to Sudan and find Muslims, their thinking is different. All of them are Muslims. If you go to the mosque in Khartoum, you will hear the prayers. But after the prayer, the one who calls the prayer or delivers the sermon will deliver a sermon that's unique and will catch the interest of the people in the Sudan.
Yeah, well, how many mosques do you have in Harlem?
Just a moment, sir. But a man who is delivering a sermon in the Sudan...
I think what's really interesting about this debate is that I'm sure you guys have seen, or at least in passing have seen, like a presidential debate, and how chaotic and wild it is. These two are still having a debate and still talking very civilly. Malcolm X says, "Just a moment, sir. Let me finish what I'm trying to say." And you know what Rustin does? He lets him finish. And same way, Rustin makes a point, and Malcolm X lets him finish his point. You don't see that today. People talk over each other and call each other stupid all the time. I don't know. That's wild to me. Anyway,
he wouldn't deliver that same sermon in China, because the sermon is delivered to fit the problems of the people in whose country that sermon is given. And it's the same way here in America. In America, you have a unique problem. You have a problem of 20 million black people who have been transplanted, actually uprooted from their native soil and transplanted in soil.
That happens anytime someone says the word stupid. So, like, that wasn't in relation to what's going on. Well, this is why neither of them are president. They didn't call each other stupid. Well, no, it's because Malcolm X got shot, and because Rustin is gay. And they're both black. That's why they're not president. Do you think that would have helped if they called each other stupid?
Well, it's foreign to them. And after being cut off from their culture for 400 years, when you come to them today with Islam, you are giving them back that which they were taken from 400 years ago.
No, I simply can't agree with this historically. The most of the Negroes who came from Africa, black people, actually came from the west coast of Africa. It was long after the migrations here that the Mohammedanism spread south.
If Malcolm X called people poo-poo heads, you would have President X. Can I just say the term President X goes card? Yeah, President X is a cool-ass name. That goes hard.
It was in the 17th, it was in the 18th century.
Dizzy wants to give us a fun fact that's not related to anything that we're doing.
Hey, invited to Epstein Island.
Yes, we did hear about that.
Like, nah.
You're a fool!
Yeah, Dizzy is now telling us that that Elon Musk, despite wanting to go to Epstein's Islands to hang out with all the small children, didn't go because he couldn't go because he was not allowed to. So that man is such a loser that he couldn't go to the rich people parties that they were having for rich people. That's how lame that dude is. Yeah, you can't, like, I think I actually like Elon Musk for one reason and one reason alone. And he is the sole living proof that it does not matter how rich you are. He is actually the richest person on the planet. It does not matter how rich you are. You cannot buy people to like you. What did you just give me? Was it taffy? Elon Musk is too lame for Pedo Island. Imagine being such a fucking douche, not even the pedophiles want you. I'm saying. Thank you for the taffy. Oh, here. Speaking about Epstein, supposedly everything has been released, but Mr. Trump is just don't talk about it. Yeah, no, because that's what they keep doing. That's what they keep doing. That's why they keep releasing all the files slowly. There's 3 million files been released, and they're going to slowly, over time, drop more files in hopes that you slowly forget about it. It's very common propaganda stuff. But of course, he's going to be like, don't talk about it. And most of the people who support Trump are just not going to talk about it. If you look at the people talking, anytime someone who's left leaning politically talks about the Epstein files and releasing them, all the people who support Trump are like, oh, when are we going to talk about a real issue? Like having an absolute pedophile in office is not an issue. Hello, Life. How you doing?
That the Mohammedanism came down into Nigeria and to the extent that it exists in Ghana and Sierra Leone. I think what most of us were when we came here were worshippers of something quite different.
This is what the white man taught you.
Okay, we're definitely going to get into that. I'm complaining about makeup industry. Life also being black. We are talking about doing stuff for Black History Month, and the thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to look at on Malcolm X's speech and/or debate, because as you probably also are aware, we were taught that Malcolm X exists, but we were never taught and we know his stances on things, but we were never taught or shown any of his speeches or any of his things or any of the things that he did. It was like, oh yeah, Malcolm X exists anyway. So I wanted to get in on that. We were also talking about Bayard Rustin. I keep forgetting his name, because he was a political activist that worked under Martin Luther King. And I think he's quite interesting in the sense that he's working under Martin Luther King. He organized all the marches and the protests and all the speeches for Martin Luther King. And he did so by being actively gay, which happened in like the 40s he died in 85, as far as my research shown. I think he died in 85. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember for a fact, but he died relatively recently. So imagine being a political activist for your race and being gay in like the 40s to like the 80s. How did he die? I think he just died of old age. How did Bayard Rustin die? Cause of death: cardiac arrest resulting from surgery from a ruptured, perforated appendix. He died from appendicitis. So yeah, that's what we're doing. You guys are gonna get hit with ads in about 5 minutes. Feel free to use your Prime subs if you have Amazon Prime.
Worshippers of something quite
This
different.
is what the white man taught you.
Well-
Sir, the white man taught you after bringing you here and stripping you of your original culture, getting it completely out of your mind.
This is just what he did.
He stripped you of your native tongue.
Okay, Filler is an ex nurse. Please explain. So they from outrage, they said he died from appendicitis at old age, which is impressive. Why is it impressive? I'm confused. Normally, if you don't have any issues with your appendix by age 30, then you never will. I see. Dizzy, who is 30, is now going, yay. Is where to get appendicitis as an old man? I see.
But it was
He's
not
just a
Mohammedanism.
moment. Well, sir, in Time magazine, February the 16th, 1959, in an article on Sekou Touré, it speaks of the Mali Empire. The Mali Empire was one of the vastest empires in West Africa.
I know about it.
And it says this.
I know.
Speaking of the Mali Empire in Guinea, it says, let me find it here for you, sir. It says, though Africa was until the Europeans came, the continent that could not write, it had known its times of glory. Guinea was once part of the powerful Mali Empire that stretched from the French Sudan on the upper reaches of the Niger to just short of West Africa's Atlantic
I've never heard
coast.
Niger pronounced that way.
When its 14th century ruler, that's a period that predates the discovery of America, Mansa Musa made his pilgrimage to Mecca. He traveled with a caravan of 60,000 men, and among his camels were 80 that each bore 300 pounds of gold. Now, I cite this to say this. This sultan of the Mali Empire, his name was Mansa Musa. Musa is the Arabic pronunciation of Moses. He was a Muslim. He was making the pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, this was the entire Mali Empire. Timbuktu was the capital. Timbuktu was the center of learning. This shows the Muslim influence in that advanced area of West Africa before the discovery of America. Before America was discovered, they say that this man, Mansa Musa, built a swimming pool in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Now, you have to be an engineer, you have to be a genius to build a swimming pool on the seacoast.
Yeah.
Here's a black sultan, just a moment, sir, who built a swimming pool in the middle of the Sahara Desert. He couldn't have been a savage. If he was that far advanced in engineering to build a swimming pool in the middle of the desert, something the white man can't hardly do today, you can't say that the man's culture was a savage culture.
Look, don't beat a dead horse. I am not for a moment trying to say that there was not vast culture in West Africa.
You said that it wasn't
Now, just
Islam.
a moment. I said that the Islam spread from Timbuktu to the west coast of Africa.
Timbuktu is on the west coast of Africa.
Well, it's up in, my dear friend. I'm
Timbuktu.
talking about the area from. Yeah, I know where
Timbuktu is on the west
and
coast of
this,
Africa.
And this is the area here that most of the slaves came from, and not Timbuktu.
Sir, this is Guinea down here.
Okay.
Guinea.
Well, I mean, we can't see the map that they're pointing to, but maybe I could just pull one up. So he's saying Timbuktu. You guys can't see my mouse, but you see the orange area right there. There is Timbuktu, and he's saying this is on the coast of the West Africa, which I'm being fair. The west coast of Africa is massive. You would say that colonizer. I don't know if I said that on the west coast. Sorry, east coast. Not east. You got me thrown off now. It's the west coast. It is the west side of, man. Threw me off immediately. It's on the west side of Africa. Coast is pushing it. I would also say coast is pushing it because according to this map, I would say that the west coast of these westmost countries, like the two up here, Senegal, Guinea, all those, I wouldn't say that Timbuktu is part of the west coast.
Is a Muslim area and was a Muslim area in that day. I would like to point out one more thing that the same article says. It will not be easy for Africa to be completely itself. It will not be easy. Let's see. In 4 short months, Guinea has apparently learned that independence is a relative thing. It will not be easy for Africa to be completely itself, for no other continent has been so swept by foreign influence. Islam stretches not only across its top, but deep into the south, as far as the lower reaches of the Belgian Congo. Northern Nigeria is as rigidly Muslim as...
In response to no continent has been so colonized and controlled. Filler says innocent British whistle. we didn't. That wasn't us.
Saudi Arabia, and political meetings in Guinea come to a halt at sunset when everyone troops out, chucks his shoes, and bows toward Mecca.
Now, let me tell you, my friend, just so we get this historically clear in one illustration. All over the west of Africa, you find the finest art objects out of which Picasso and others developed Cubism and modern art. That came from the carving all over West Africa during the 17th and 18th century of figures with faces, hands. If Mohammedanism had really spread, we could not have had those artistic figures because, as you ought to know, the Mohammedans are not permitted to create figures in their art objects.
Sir,
and it was the spread of
I think he's right on that one.
Later, which was in part due to the destruction of these art objects. Now, this is an historical fact, and I think we ought to get on.
No, sir, there's one more point that I think it should be cleared up. When you spoke of the Muslims who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as not being real Muslims as such, but just using that label to camouflage their continued Christian practices.
I didn't say camouflage. I said that it was a reaction against. I think camouflage is not quite what I mean.
Yes, in the New York Times Sunday, in an article called "Islam is Advancing in West Africa," it says Christians are worried by gain.
Man, I don't know anything about Islam. That's because you were raised in a Catholic church. I think it's only natural you don't know anything. You probably don't know anything about Judaism either. Honestly, it would make sense that you don't know anything about it. So the thing about Islam is that a lot of black men, such as Malcolm X, believe in Islam because Islam adheres and helps its own people, and if its own people tend to be black, so naturally he gravitated towards Islam. And to which I say, I have my opinion on it the way that I have my opinion on our religion. If your religion makes you a better person, who am I to tell you not to believe in it, right? The problem is that a lot of people do a lot of fucked up shit in the name of their religion. So, yeah.
Lagos, Nigeria. Christian missionaries say they are worried about the advance of Islam in West Africa.
Okay, I think Dizzy's playing a game in the background, so you might hear them talking.
Well, they ought to be because it's spreading very rapidly.
They include Bishop of Lagos, a Nigerian and a Roman Catholic churchman who has been in West Africa for many years. The Catholic cleric said, quote, Christianity here is skin deep.
Sure, Islam helps its own people. That's true. Assuming you're a bloke anyway. By bloke, they mean male. And this is true. This is actually something that Malcolm X, I think, begins to continue to talk about. And that's something that after Malcolm X's assassination, the Black Panther Party tries to, while also having that having the issue themselves, tries also to remedy with the women that ran the Black Panther movement in America. So Philip is absolutely correct on that.
Deep only. Some Africans we baptize now go to the mosque and observe.
Wasn't it a thing in most religions that if you weren't male, you weren't pure? Wow, that's not something that I was taught. If someone would like to speak up on that, by all means.
Ramadan, the Muslim month of purification. End quote. A British official of 11 years' service in Nigeria suggested that Christianity was felt to be the white man's religion and was rejected as contrary to the African personality. One more paragraph now. An American who works for a philanthropic foundation here said, Islam is spreading like wildfire. It offers Africans an uncomplicated creed with a few simple tenets.
Right.
Nigeria has just become independent, which has just become independent, already appears well on her way toward becoming a predominantly Muslim nation.
The people who killed Malcolm X were another people of were other people of the Nation of Islam. People who he should be considered brothers, or who should have been considered brothers, assassinated him, or at least that's what they were told. They were telling us. I am woefully ignorant of anything other than Christianity, so I wouldn't know. Likewise, I'd have some. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about other religions as far as the Eastern philosophy, such as Zen Buddhism. I know a little bit of Taoism, and some Shinto. But the Shinto part of it is mostly what I know from anime. I don't really know anything about it personally.
True.
And it's letting you know right here, even the black man in Africa, when he accepts Islam, he doesn't drop all.
Honestly, I feel like the FBI killing someone like MLK Jr. or Malcolm X would be a bad thing, because it would be just would be a bad thing for them, because it would be just put the spotlight on them in their movement more. Martyrism, which is probably that's exactly what happened with MLK. And the assassination of Malcolm X created the Black Panther Party. So that is literally what happened, yes.
All of these other customs overnight. But still, he's accepting Islam. He's bearing witness that there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the apostle of Allah, and is giving him unity and militancy that he didn't have before.
All right, all I want to say is that the article points out that these people go both to the Christian and to the mosque.
But it points out that when one is converted to Islam, his reaction to it in Africa is no different than the reaction of the black man here in America. It's both the same reaction.
I wonder if I could ask a question here. Mr. Rustin, progress in your terms, does it involve a greater sense of racial identity?
I don't understand the question. What does he mean by that? Does it include the general sense of racial identity? So the thing that's confusing here, who the fuck is that third guy? He's the guy hosting the debate. He's working for the paper that's publishing this, or the news station that's publishing this. The thing that I don't understand is 9 times out of 10 when people say race, they actually mean culture. So I don't understand what he means by racial identity here.
Does it involve a greater sense of racial identity?
Like, yes? Like, what the fuck what does that mean? That's not really, like, when you say progress, do you mean you want black people to be known as black people? Yes? What is that? That's not really that's like, I feel like he just threw his question in there to throw off the argument. You think this journalist could clear the wall in a Cuphead tutorial? No, actually, because video games were not nearly as advanced back then. So I actually, unironically, think no, he would not be able to clear it.
I believe that it is very important to have a great sense of racial identity. because I believe that it is quite impossible for people to struggle creatively if they do not truly believe in themselves. I believe...
Were they invented yet? The 60s? I think the video games became a thing in the 70s? It's either the 70s or 80s, but I think it was the 70s with Pong.
Oh, that's because you went from like 10 to 11, right? So it's like trying to play catch up with all of the updates that you supposedly did not get.
Yeah, this happened in the 60s, so. They might just have tennis for 2, but whether that's a video game is debatable. If you wanted to be technical, they had some of the playing parts and had Pong. So I would consider Pong a video game. So yeah, technically they did have video games.
That dignity is first. Now this, for me, is doubly important, precisely because believing in integration and not having been told where we are to go, I can see nothing more logical than staying here and struggling for one's rights. Also because of moral principles which I hold, but leave them aside for the moment. I can see no way for the Negro to struggle except through nonviolence and a dedication to strategic nonviolence as, in sense, a matter of principle. Now, therefore, if you are going to be able to struggle with nonviolence, to a certain extent, you have to have affection for the people who are mistreated. No affection for the other fellow is possible without a great sense of dignity.
Why didn't they just solve this debate through a game of Pong? So I've been saying this for a while. In a much peaceful world, that's a joke, obviously, but in a much more peaceful world, a much more strategic and mentally forethought world, we would solve most issues with the Olympics and or some form of game, right? Like, instead of war, some people would play chess. You know what I mean? I think the presidential campaigns should be decided via Mario Kart. Like, that's not a good way of doing that, but you would think that would, like, it would work, right? Because games are like the Hunger Games, not those kind of games. But like, nobody has to die, and you still show your physical superiority or your mental superiority depending on what the game is, right? The next president should be decided with the rock, paper, scissors. Yes, of course. Absolute games of chance. Wait, no, Smash Bros. Melee items off, Final Destination Fox only. Bro, then we still have the Epstein Island problem. Anyway.
In oneself. And therefore, the dignity of the Negro, for me, is not something that is an aside. It is an essential of the struggle. The people in Montgomery were able to struggle and get integration on their buses for a simple reason. 10 years before, they could not have done it because they did not believe in themselves. When they believed in themselves, they could then be socially affectionate to the opposition, while at the same time being extremely militant and walking and being prepared to sacrifice. I think this is most important. And I would therefore agree with Malcolm X that doing away with the ugliness which our people have had as a result of their poverty and their position is very necessary and important. We can certainly agree here.
Thank you. And you know, I was so happy, Mr. Rustin, to hear you say that dignity is most important. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad absolutely, he emphasizes to us the importance of dignity, but you cannot have dignity. Dignity means a high regard for yourself.
Right.
You can't have high regard for that which you have no knowledge of. And when you ask a white man his nationality, for instance, and he says German, immediately he's connected with a German nation, a German flag in the past.
That is actually, that's what I said before at the beginning. I may be an African American, but I have no connection to Africa. I don't even know which part of Africa my ancestry came from. I don't know if I'm Central African, South African before, you know, the apartheid, or West African. Those are where the slaves were taken from and brought over from America, but I don't know which part of that was. And those are all three separate countries and different countries within that area. So I don't have a connection. I can't say, like, I don't have a connection the same way that, like, someone who's German would say that they're German, right?
German culture. If he says he's an Englishman, he's connected with England and he's connected with a culture. Now, if you ask a black man in America and he says Negro, right there, he's putting a term on himself that carries more contempt with it than any word that exists in the Webster's dictionary today. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the black man in America is not looked down upon because he's black. He's looked down upon because he's called a Negro. A black man can come here from Africa. He's not a Negro. He's an African. He has a culture. A black man from Africa can put on his long flowing robes and have his head wrapped up and walk around in Alabama or Mississippi and not run into the same abuses and barriers and pitfalls that you and I would run into here in America, dressed like a white man, speaking like a white man, with the religion of the white man, and with the false conception of history that the white man has brainwashed us with, and at the same time calling ourselves by the white man's name. Now, what Mr. Muhammad says is this: instead of us spending all of our time griping with the white man for the way he has treated us or for what he deprives us of, what we must do is get some dignity, which we cannot have without having a knowledge of ourselves. We must have
this is
some
true.
kind
This
of
is factual
cultural knowledge. And
now, at this point in time, this might not have been as prevalent as it is now, but now, in the year of our Lord 2026, their Black history is a thing, and we have actual Black American culture. So we have hip hop to lean back on. We have all essences of hip hop to lean back on. We have Black history to lean back on, as such as Malcolm X in Rustin here, in MLK, and so we have a greater sense of identity now that we've established ourselves here for much longer, and so we are able to have and walk with the sense of dignity and the sense of purpose that maybe did not exist back then. In fact, one of the reasons why I decided to do this talk is because of how terrible the job market is. Many who are in the Discord know that I had a job interview relatively recently, and I did not get the job. And then I have a different job interview at a place as a cart pusher. Now, if you look at my resume, you'll see that I have tons of office experience and I have tons of graphic design experience. All the stuff you see on stream is my graphic design. I've done this, right? And I felt that as far as my skill set is concerned, it was below me to take a cart pusher job. However, I had to because I don't have any other choice, because that's the only way to get money, right? So I don't have a job yet. I haven't had this interview yet. But if I'm given the position of a cart pusher, I have to take this. And I know, because I have a sense of dignity within myself, that I am bound for greater things. I don't know if I've actually told this story on stream. I probably have. It's been 5 years, but I carry myself with such a sense of dignity that my Uber driver saw me working manual labor one of the summers that I was working over college to make money, and said, "Baby, this isn't for you." So I carry myself with such a sense of dignity and pride in myself that the fact that I was working manual labor, literally wearing jeans and a dirty white t-shirt, that my Uber driver literally looked at me and said, "This isn't for you." And you know what they did, chat? They pulled over, stopped the ride, and they bought me dinner. We went to a hibachi grill and they bought me dinner. And we went to a hibachi grill because she said, "You carry yourself with such a dignity. You carry yourself like a king, and I can see that in you. You deserve to have your food cooked in front of you like a king would." I was 18 or 19 when that happened. Or that Uber driver was hating on you. They might have been. They might have been, but she was an older lady. She was really nice. Did you give them 5 stars? Yes, I gave them 5 stars. What are you, crazy? My point being is that Malcolm X is incredible, and Rustin, because they're both saying it, that when you have a history, that you carry yourself with such a dignity, you know that you are bound for greater things, and you know not to accept things that you're not supposed to accept. The thing that they're talking about right now is that the white man in this instance is holding us at a lower standard that they're holding themselves, and we know better than to do that. And that is also what I'm talking about, the war on the top 1%. We as a middle class and lower class know that things should be better, but they aren't. Why the hell don't we have free healthcare? All other countries have free healthcare. It couldn't be that hard, but the reason why we don't have it is because the government is making money off the fact that we don't have free healthcare. The reason why we don't have free education is because the government is making money off the fact that we don't have free education. The reason why we don't have food for anybody who wants food, and the reason why prices are going up, is because the government is making money off of that. So the reason why I wanted to have this talk, or one of the many reasons why I wanted to have this talk with you guys, is that the parallel between the history of the Black history in America is the same thing that's going on right now. It's just on a larger scale. It's the top 1% is fighting the middle class and the low class, and some of us in the middle and low class don't know any better because we're not carrying ourselves with dignity. They don't know any better. Some people in the middle or lower class literally don't know how taxes work. And some of these people who don't know how taxes work are actual business owners. And I think that's weird. You know?
Our background, in order for, we must know what our parents did and what our foreparents did in order to have high regard for our foreparents. And if you don't have an high regard for your foreparents, you can't regard yourself highly.
I doubt Elon Musk knows how taxes work. He doesn't know how taxes work because he only knows is the loopholes on how not to pay them.
You take a man who has been taught that his father used to pull a plow and his mother was a maid for the master. He can't look up at his parents. But when you
now, in that respect, my parents have had me. Good night, filler. I hope you have a nice night. In that respect, my parents are amazing in that sense, because no matter what you could say about the way that I was raised or what have you, both of my parents have raised me with a certain dignity in myself. Both of my parents have done that. And I thank them for that, because without having a certain amount of self-respect, you accept things that you're not supposed to respect. You accept things that you're not supposed to accept, right?
send him back beyond the time that his father was pulling a plow and back beyond the time when his mother.
This thing that Malcolm X is saying right now, you send him back before your parents were pulling the plow and back to when Africans were running everything. They were kings. They were royalty, that kind of thing. My father has instilled in that in me, and my mother has instilled in me that just because people are telling me that I am lesser, not that my father didn't, but just because people tell me that I am lesser, does not mean that that is true. I was taught by my mother to blend in wherever I go. She literally taught me code switching. Oh, I just dropped something. Hold on. Can't see it. There it is. She literally taught me code switching and saying, no matter where you go, you belong. Don't let anyone tell you different. People who have seen, I mean, most of my chat has, because I love that movie, but people who have seen Spider-Verse 1 and 2 know that I love that movie, because that is what those movies are about. You belong wherever you are. Don't let anyone tell you different. And that is what I was raised on. Let nobody tell you that you don't belong. And if they tell you you don't belong, you prove them otherwise.
Father was a maid for the white man, back to the time when he was living along the banks of the Nile in palaces at the same time.
Nah, I'ma do my own thing is literally the whole entire thesis of all three movies, and the third one isn't even out yet. Nah, I'ma do my own thing is what Malcolm X is advocating for. Nah, I'ma do my own thing is what Rustin is is advocating for. It's just what those two things are different. Their own things are two separate things, but they're both together in the sense that black people are being oppressed, and that can't keep happening. And I'm coming here to you today that the middle class and the low class are similar. Not to mention that the people of color, just in general in America, are being oppressed, but the middle class and the low class are being oppressed by the top 1%, and that can't keep happening. Something needs to change. Gotta imagine how sad it would be if they just completely fumbled the third movie. I have faith that they won't do that.
Time the white man was living in the caves of Europe, and history will bear that out, or at a time when he was wearing silk in the East and in Africa and Asia, at a time when the white man, whom he regards so highly today, didn't know what clothes were, at a time when he was cooking and seasoning his food, when at the same time the white man whom he idolizes and worships today didn't know what cooked food was, then when you go back then and find out what a great history that the black man had, how his foreparents were the ones who engineered the pyramids, and how that the head or the face on the Sphinx in Africa, which is one of the oldest statues on this earth, is not a European, but it's a black man. He begins to look back there and see that his people were somebody. He begins immediately to throw off this inferior attitude, and he begins to look up at himself. And then he stops abusing himself. He stops getting drunk. He stops trying to escape from the surroundings or the conditions that he's in by turning to dope or alcohol.
He stops being black Republican.
He begins to toss aside these abuses.
I agree thoroughly. And I am at the present time doing some work on the Ga Empire.
But,
Precisely because I think this is important.
It's very important.
But now let me ask you another question, because I want to clarify your position on the Jewish question. Where does your group come out on this question? Because I only tell you what I don't want to tell you what I've heard. I want
Tell
to see
me anything you've heard, and I'll clarify it.
Well, I have been given to understand that your position is, particularly in Harlem, that the Jews dominate. That one of the reasons that the Negro is so depressed is that the Jews are exploiting him, and that the Jews are attempting to exploit the Arab world and stir up difficulties in the Middle East. Now, I'd like to know whether this is a misunderstanding I have.
I should say that we only have a few minutes more.
Yes, sir. If you, sir, will read what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has written, and he has written much, I don't think you can find an article where he has ever pointed out the Jew as an exploiter of the black man. He speaks of the exploiter, period. He doesn't break it down in terms of a Frenchman or an Englishman or a Jew or a German. He speaks of the exploiter. And sometimes the man who is the most guilty of exploitation will think that you're pointing the finger at him and put out the propaganda that you're anti this or that you're anti that.
You know what? He's right. He's spitting
between exploitation and exploiter.
Now,
so Malcolm X just said, "Hey, we're not anti-Semitic, but like, if them saying any of that is just the admission of guilt. So like, I don't know. Maybe you should think about that."
Who is the most exploiting will put out propaganda.
I say this, that usually when you find a man putting out propaganda against Muslims, usually that man feels that the finger is being pointed at him. But
in other words, you think that many Jews feel that way?
I don't know. But I say that you cannot find anything that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has written or said that at any time will label the Jew as an exploiter. No, sir, but he speaks about the exploitation and the oppression and the deception that has been used against the black people of America. Now, the man that is guilty, let whoever is guilty wear that shoe. But he has never made a distinction between a Frenchman, again I say, or a Jew, or a German, or what have you. The exploiter is the exploiter. I don't care what kind of label you put on him, and he can't duck it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bayard Rustin and Mr. Malcolm X.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, that looks like that's it. But yeah, I'm really glad we did that. Actually, I'm really happy with how this turned out. So if you're watching on YouTube, Make sure you, I guess, hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. If you guys want to see me do more stuff like this, I'd be more than happy to. There's a lot, just from this one channel by itself, there's a lot of stuff over here I want to do. For example, I've heard from both of my parents about Maya Angelou, but I haven't heard one of their speeches. There's a bunch of other stuff. There's probably a bunch more figures that have said things that I'm not aware of. Moral of the story, don't be racist. I think the moral of the story is it doesn't really matter how you fight the oppression and the system that's happening right now. The important part is that you are fighting. We may not agree about what to do about this one thing, but we both agree that it's a problem that needs to be solved, and we should resolve to solve it. I would recommend not killing people or not hurting people, but I was also raised that if a motherfucker hits you, you hit him back. So I'm just saying, like, choose what's right for you. And go with that. You know what I mean? All right. We're gonna get out of here. Let me see who we can rate out to. We're gonna go to someone who's also probably relatively politically aligned with me. We're gonna rate into Cunning Links, who's currently playing Metal Gear Rising, which is a great political game. Also just a good game in general. I will see you guys tomorrow. There will not be a stream Wednesday because that is when that said interview is taking place. So yeah, I will see everybody tomorrow. Everyone have a great night and take care. Later.